Hi, this is Dwayne, also known as Major Death. Join me 8 p.m. Central, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at twitch.tv/MajorDeath, and let's get better at Hearthstone together. But right now, it's time for Coin Concede.
Greetings.
Hello.
Greetings.
My greetings.
Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 120 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. My name is Kenny, and I go by KCCO Gamer, and joining us from Gadgets Land, New York, we have Ridiculous Hat.
Yes, you do. How's it going, buddy?
Good. And also from Carazana, California, we have Bodicus.
I swear I thought I muted. As far as I know. As far as my computer told me I'm muted, I promise.
We're already at episode 120.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's so many
just
episodes.
hit me today. I was like, wow, 120 already. That's cool. Cool. All right. We got a big episode here. First, let me say that we are in a large supported by you, the listener. So if you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, just head over to patreon.com/coinconcede. That being said, we do have a new pledge this week. We have PJ Dietz. Thank you so much for your support of our show. We do appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you around. A little bit of the outline of the show this week. We're going to have some talk about ladder, a little bit of news. We have our pre-tournament talks, I should say. And our deck explanation is going to be like a mix of our deck doctor and kind of go into off of that a little bit of cue block and control. And if we have time, questions and emails. So let's get to it. Pat, I want to hear about your week this week.
So I feel like I spent more time playing Twitter than I've playing ladder. Both are important, but it's definitely been a week with a lot of community involvement, which I love. But like I said last week, I've had a little bit of difficulty kind of focusing in heavily on the ladder. I'll talk about that a little bit after this segment. But what I have played is Tempo Rogue, and Tempo Rogue is still real good. So when I've been playing it, I'm around rank 6 right now. I haven't made a really significant push to Legend, but every game I've played with it, it's felt like still one of the best things to be doing.
All right. What about you, Bonicus?
So I was really hoping this last weekend would go a lot better than it did. I made a little bit of progress. I got as high as rank 2 on Asia with combo Dragon Priest. But that was it felt like so many games. So I don't know. It's been going really slow for me. I think I'm rank 4 on NA, but I was playing mostly control lock on NA, and those games take forever. And so now that I have Hat's Tempo Rogue deck, I'm gonna see if I can grind out some quicker games and maybe climb up there. I'm going to be pretty busy this weekend because I'll be in San Diego, but still hoping to make some more progress.
Yeah, I've been a little busy this week as far as game time. I haven't had much play time this week, but I'm going to be going into it full bore this week. I have several coachings coming up soon, so looking forward to those. And I had my show match this week, so I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit now or later, but I consider it part of my my week here. I had a match. Yeah, it was fun. My match was against Blue Spartan, and I was a little worried. I was like, this is going to be another Bodicus slam. Just he's going to 3-0 me. We'll see. So yeah, it was. I don't know if I want to talk about it in depth, but it was good games. We ended up streaming, I think, all 3 of ours at different times. So it will be on our channel if you want to go back and check it out.
Yeah, I got to cast it with none other than Storm Rage from the Blizzlet podcast, and that was a ton of fun. It was a real interesting game. Both sides played really well, and I'm glad that Kenny was able to redeem us because Hat can go over his match, but as I had already said, I got smushed by Smiley Chris.
I had to. I didn't realize this, but I did take Big Druid again, but I had to ditch it in order to come ahead here. So I brought Big Druid, Aggro Paladin, and Aggro Warrior. Those are my 3 classes because we split up our classes 3 each for each person's games. And then, did you want to talk about yours a little bit? I watched yours. It was over. Or I'm thinking of something. I'm thinking of the U.
Well, so we should talk
yeah.
about it. There's a lot of different community involvement this week. So
Yes.
for those of you that don't know, we had a listener league that was the end of last year. The winning team was Smiley Chris, Blue Spartan, and Reganis Prime, 3 of our patrons and listeners, and excellent players of Hearthstone. And as part of their reward, we did a little show match where each of us kind of paired up and played the same format, and we got beat pretty badly. Well, not pretty badly. What, it was 5-4 overall. I won 1 game. Kenny won 3.
Same.
Yeah.
No, Kenny won 2.
Or Kenny won
I
2.
won 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because it was best of 3. And it was
Yeah.
all 9 classes. It was unified between the 3. So I played against Reganis Prime, and he is a known wild enthusiast, but also he is a known excellent player. He's usually top 100 wild. I honestly don't remember the specifics of the match, other than he crushed me most of the games that we played. I felt pretty far behind pretty quickly. But he's a great guy. It's a great team, and we're really happy that they were able to prove that they were able to beat the hosts of Concede, including one former near champion sitting over here, Mr. Bodicus. And then we're also I'm in United Hearth League, which it's run by Ferris Biscuit. I think I talked about it last week, but it's the same guy that does the 1600 Dust Opens. He got 8 podcasters and content creators together. And I played this week against Andrew is Living, and that is you have to pick the 9 classes over the course of 3 weeks. So this week was my Paladin, Mage, and Hunter deck. So all of those have 2 Corridor Creepers. It was definitely a very aggressive lineup, and he had the same lineup instead of Mage, he had Aggro Druid. So 12 Corridor Creepers between the 6 decks. And really, the match was over in 20 minutes because it was super duper smorky. It was really fast, and I already play super fast. And he was a little slower than me, but not by a lot. And all the games came down to really whoever draw the most creepers. And I got a really busted draw with my Secret Mage. I went turn 1 Lackey Secret, turn 2 Coin Kirantor Second Secret, turn 3 5/5. You don't beat that draw. It's not a draw that you beat. And on turn 8, I played 2 more free 5/5s with a bunch of burn in between. So Murloc Paladin, real good. Hunter was okay. We both played it, and mine was just a little bit faster. With the Hunter Mirror, we both got Corridor Creeper, so I guess it was even. But then I got 2 Corridor Creepers when he was playing his Paladin, and one of them was paired with a Tundra Rhino. So it turns out 6 mana, 2/5 charge, and a 5/5 charge isn't super fair. So that match was over in about 20 minutes. But it was still really fun to be a part of. Andrew's a great guy, and he took the loss in stride, even though it probably doesn't feel super great to play matches like that. But it's I'm just glad I got the chance to play against him. And it's been a fun week for tournaments.
The only thing I saw about that, because I went to go watch the VOD today, it was like an hour, and I want to say it was like an hour and 10-minute VOD, and then it started, and it was like a 26-minute timer before it went live. I was like,
yes.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. At least the timer was there, so you knew that you could like fast forward. Because I didn't, obviously I wasn't there live, and it was over by the time I got to it. I was like, wait, it's over? All right, I guess I'm gonna go check out the VOD, but it was fun. When I played Blue Spartan, he played Mage, Paladin, Rogue were his classes. I played my Big Druid first. I lost to that, and then I played my Aggro Paladin next, because he already got his Aggro Paladin out of the way by winning with it. And I think I played against his Mage, and then I won that. And then I played my Aggro Warrior against his Rogue. I was thinking about bringing my Druid, but then I was afraid of Sap. So, big big dragon druid was not going to be. This one was a dragon druid compared to the big druid I played against you, bot. But yeah, it was all fun. I had more fun this time than last time though. I was a little more stressed because I was playing on mobile last time.
Frothing Berserker had a very large thirsty blade in your last game.
I think it hit him.
Apparently,
for 7,
it's
was it?
thirsty. I just found out today that it's thirsty.
Let's put this question out to our listeners. If you didn't know before right now that Frothing Berserker said, "My blade be thirsty," please tweet at us or engage with us in Discord. I just want to informally poll. I promise you will not be judged. But I'm just deeply curious as to how many people misheard this, because apparently this is a situation that I was just unaware of. This is like finding out that people thought the TLC song was called Jason Waterfalls.
Hey, look, it sounds like a hard T. It doesn't sound like a soft T. So I was very confused.
What's a soft T?
Th versus tuh.
Is that okay? It kind of makes sense. Also, a softie is a type of ice cream.
All right.
We should make a poll on Twitter, on our Concede Twitter. Maybe I'll have you do that.
Yeah,
when we're done.
just if you hear this and you have ever misheard or misconstrued what Frothing Berserker said, please tweet at us. I am just deeply curious. I promise you will not be judged. Just want to informally collect this.
All right. So that does it for our week. Let's go ahead and jump into the news. All right. So the first item up here, I feel like I shouldn't take this because someone else here has played it and loves it. So I'm going to let him take over.
But the question is, which one of us are you talking about?
Oh, come on. You know who you are.
But it's okay. I put this
It's
news
both
item
of us.
here, but me and Bot and all of Twitter have been talking about this Tavern Brawl. So the Tavern Brawl today, they took the 3 world champions in history. There's Firebat in 2014. There's Ostkaka in 2015, and there's Pavel in 2016. And they took the decks that they brought to the tournament, and they took their original configurations, including Blade Flurry costing 2, Innervate granting you 2 mana, Force of Nature giving you minions with charge, Gadget Sand
5
Auctioneer
mana Auctioneer.
in cases costing 5 mana, and Leroy in that same occasion costing 4 mana. And yes, there is a Miracle Rogue deck. Though actually that version
is
didn't play
Leroy
Leroy.
in that deck?
Nope, it
Yeah,
played
no,
Southsea
Leroy's
Deckhand
not in
and
the deck,
Faceless.
yeah.
And it randomly assigns you a world champion deck, and oh my god, it is so much fun. And the first match I queued up today was with Oil Rogue, and I almost missed my train stop I was playing. Like, I just could not stop hitting play. I almost missed my stop, and getting to play Violet Teacher, Coin, Prep, Tinker, Sharpseed Oil, next turn, Deadly Poison hitting you in the face, Blade Flurry, like, oh, it's the good stuff. Oh. It made me just go like...
So I haven't played it yet. Is it randomly selected, or do you...
Yeah.
Randomly. Yeah,
Oh,
otherwise
that's
I would just
completely
play 5 mana Gadget, Miracle Rogue
wouldn't-
for hours.
It wouldn't be as fun if you got to choose because everyone would choose the same.
I don't know.
I don't know. I would try quite a few of them. Like, I really wanted to play Patron.
Yeah.
got
But
to
you're
play
gonna see a lot of the same ones that are doing well.
But I kind of want to see the meta, right? Would the meta evolve that, like, there's a lot of Miracle Rogue, and so then you counter that with Face Hunter, and then you counter the Face Hunter with
You got a
Mid-Range
point.
Shaman, and then Mid-Range Shaman gets countered with Freeze Mage. Like, would there be a meta in this if you only had these 13 decks to pick from? I'm kind of curious. Like, it's not that way, and this way is totally fun. But I'd be curious to see what this, like, if you built, like, a biodome, and it was these 13 archetypes inside, which one would win at the end? Because they're all busted decks. They're all really good.
Zoo Warlock.
That's-
The original Zoo Warlock, the first deck I ever got Legend with, was basically one of the decks.
Yeah, except that was back when Soulfire cost 0.
0. 0 mana
You can't do
Soulfire.
that. That's not okay.
Power overwhelming a Nerubian egg and then eat it with a void. Oh,
It's,
Okay.
it's you got until Sunday. I think there's a really good chance my stream tomorrow will just be 2 hours of Tavern Brawl. Like, it's by far the most fun game mode right now. I'm incredibly impressed.
I'm definitely gonna be playing it. I haven't had a chance yet, but yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. All right, shall we move on? We have the next piece up here is free packs for Worlds. At least that's what we have written here. So we're going to be getting more packs for who you choose as your champion. I think we talked a little bit about this last game, did we not? I thought
Yes,
we
but
did.
these are more
Yeah,
free
but-
packs.
Yeah, so
even more.
every day for the next 3 days, you will be getting a free pack for just logging in.
Just logging in.
Today is Ungoro. Tomorrow will be Knights of the Frozen Throne, and the day after will be. It is consecutive days, right? I'm not messing that up.
Yours truly. Yep.
Okay.
During
and
Sunday,
then,
the finale.
and then Kobolds and Catacombs will be the last one. You get one for every server. So if you are a person that does free to play on other servers, make sure you log into other servers to pick up those packs. It's a pretty
Good to
sweet
know.
promotion.
I like it. I like it a lot. Alrighty. Anything else you want to say about it? I guess it's pretty short and sweet. I like the next piece up here. So we have the meta spotlight that they were showing for Blizzard, which shows some of the decks that have been doing really well in Legend on ladder. And so it looks like there's a questing giant mage, a build a beast hunter, and unstable recruit shaman. And they've been let's see, Jombra's, we should give the credit where credit's due, right? Stansifka's mage, and who was the I can't read Chinese. Some Chinese guy.
It's
For the
Mr.
Build-A-Beast hunter?
Build-A-Beast. I don't know. It's
Okay.
I don't know how to
And
say
then-
the person's name, but it is in here. You just have to be
Yes.
able to read. I think it is Mandarin.
Yeah. And then Jombra's Arcane Giants or Unstable Evolution deck shaman. So I'd be curious to check out the Giants mage because I need to get some more mage wins. So you guys interested in any of these decks?
So it's interesting that they chose this version of Stansifka's deck. I haven't been watching his stream lately, but I know the right before so at the very, very end of December and at the start of January, he was playing a questing giants deck, and I actually thought it was pretty good. I was playing it for a while, and it felt like there was definitely something there. So I don't know if this version is his absolute most recent version. It's definitely considerably different. But it's pretty interesting to me. I assume that it's really good against like your priests and your warlocks, which seem to be a good portion of the ladder. So seems like a decent deck to try at least.
It's the timing of this is so weird. When's the last time Blizzard gave us deck lists to play that weren't the ones that we were used to seeing? Like, it's a little weird, right?
Have
like,
they ever?
I don't think so. I don't think they've ever been like, here's a deck that wins a lot that
Mhm.
someone made on the Legend ladder. Go play it. It's
Well, I think they were trying to do is something that was unique, but at least played 50 games or more of that have been doing well. So something that, well, they're saying creative decks that have been successfully climbing through the rank of legends. So I don't know. I don't know if they seem off meta.
well, I mean they are, but since when has Blizzard told you that something is off meta or defined what the meta is in a way of saying, here, go try these different things? I wonder if that means they're aware of a stagnancy. Maybe I'm just trying to read too much into it, but like the timing is very particular. I don't know. It's right
True.
after Broad announced that there were possible balance changes, and they advertised decks specifically from. Well, they didn't advertise a warrior deck because there probably isn't one, but they advertised 2 classes that are kind of struggling right now, and what's this third one? I don't know.
And the third one is weird, right? Like I've seen
the
some of
Spell
these
Hunter.
evolve. I've seen a few of these evolve lists, but like Leroy Jenkins, I haven't seen that one in any of these lists. So it is quite weird. But I'm wondering if it has a lot to do with the thing we're going to talk about next.
Yeah.
That could very well be a big reason why they're putting something like this out.
And I'm not sure we're going to get a better segue than that.
Yeah, you want to take it? Take it.
So I want to talk about fun and balance. And I want to talk a lot about there's been a ton of discussion. We were a part of it last week when we discussed the nature of what the metagame feels like right now, how many cards are relevant for healthy Hearthstone meta, and cards that we feel like need to be nerfed or changed or something. And there's been a ton of discussion that's come about it. Velen's Chosen did an excellent discussion on the existential crisis of waiting for the next rotation and what do I do now? And Off Curve had a nearly 40-minute episode when, Steve records this on a drive home from his car. So he spent the entire drive talking about it on why the meta feels bad and what you can do about it. And a lot of the crux of his argument is something that we talked about here, is that the meta might be balanced on paper but doesn't feel enjoyable to play, and everyone has a different reason for it. So there's a few things I want to talk about that, because first of all, it's very easy and unfortunately very popular at this point in the cycle of the sets to get negative about Hearthstone. And we've always, as a community and a podcast, embraced being positive and promoting the fun aspects of the game. Right now, I think it's a little bit harder to discuss the meta in a positive way, but it doesn't mean we don't love the game. And it doesn't mean we want to promote negativity. It doesn't mean we want to go out there and say, hey, Ben Brode, you're not doing a good job. Yang Wu, you're not doing a good job. It's not at all what we think. Just right now, the meta is in a place that isn't as engaging as it has been in the past. And we are three people that have spent a lot of time playing Hearthstone. For me in particular, I can speak to I've hit Legend 22 times. 22. Each of those months is about a 30 to 40 hour monthly time commitment. I've spent about 1,000 hours over the past nearly 3 years playing Hearthstone. And I don't know if part of the reason why I'm feeling disengaged right now is a little bit of burnout, is a little bit of time that I've overinvested, if the meta is actively kind of poor, or if there's some combination thereof. And in the interest of full disclosure, I've shifted a good amount of my competitive energy to World of Warcraft. I play it a good amount, probably the same amount I play Hearthstone right now, if not a little bit more. I don't know if that means that I'm losing interest in Hearthstone because I got something else to do. I don't know if that means I'm projecting, or I don't know if that means there's really major problems right now. And I think it's probably a combination of them. Because the way I enjoy Hearthstone personally, if I talk about myself personally, the way I enjoy Hearthstone, I iterate my personal skill. I get better every week, every month, every deck I play. I solve a metagame, figure out what's the best deck, figure out how to beat that deck, becoming good with variety. And usually I find one deck per metagame that I click with. And I'm like, I want to play this one. Right? I remember in Ungoro, I tried everything until I tried Burn Mage, and Burn Mage was dope. Really loved it, and then just played it and got Legend almost right away. In this meta, I haven't found a deck that I've been like, I really want to play this right now. This is the one that works for me. This is the one that clicks for me. It's a lot of fun. I want to get there, and I'm going to keep jamming the button. I don't know. So, I want to make sure that we maintain our commitment to feeling positive while having constructive feedback about the game, and that I'm honest with all of you that my focus is not on Hearthstone as a competitive experience right now, because I don't enjoy the competitive part of it. It's the decks don't feel interesting enough, and I enjoy UHL like we talked about. I love being a part of that community, but the match I played against Andrew was over in 20 minutes. Every single game was decided by who drew more corridor creepers. All of them. Every single one. Except the Hunter Mirror, where we both drew corridor creepers, and I won because I went first. And everything else was just who got more free 5/5s. It felt kind of gross for both of us, and there was a lot more inevitability in how the game played out than I wanted there to be based on what was in our opening hand. And we're not receiving universal feedback in the game state being negative, but like I said before, a lot of people are sharing different issues with us, and they all have something different they would change about the game, but everyone, or at least a lot of people, seem to have something. The reason that I know for sure that I still love Hearthstone is because this Tavern Brawl, oh my god, it's so much fun to play with these interactive decks, and some of them are like super gross. Again, Blade Flurry is not originally an interactive card. When you go Tinker Sharkseed Oil, Deadly Poison, you make a 6-attack weapon, you hit them in the face for 6, and then you kill all their stuff and hit them in the face for another 6. not interactive, very swingy, but it's fun. It's different. It's skill intensive. The game doesn't feel based on the draw. It feels based on the sequence, and it feels like it's very different based on how you sequence your cards and what you set up for in the long game. It feels different and some of the most fun I've had in Hearthstone in months. So I feel confident the game is still an excellent game. We're still gonna want to play it. We're still gonna keep playing it. But right now, it's just kind of hard. I don't know. Bot, Kenny, what do you guys think?
I'll let Buck go
Yeah.
first.
So I don't know. It's weird for me because I think you made a really good point that, you know, a big part of our podcast is about positivity and trying to remain positive. And I think it's really important that at times like this, that, you know, it's really easy for people to hear you, you know, talk about things and or just hear all the chatter on Twitter and get kind of down about the game. And in reality, I think the game is still I still think it's good. There are definitely some things that are not ideal about it, but I mean, I'm still very driven to play. Like this weekend, I didn't have a problem queuing up on ladder. I wasn't like dreading queuing up on ladder. I was still very driven because I want to compete in HCT, and I don't know. I'm still enjoying it. I understand if other people are not enjoying it, but um, I think it's very I don't know. I think it's just very important to try to find something you can enjoy about the game, and if you're having struggles doing that, then there's no harm in taking a break for a while. Like the game's still going to be here. Um, you know, don't. It's important not to get too burned out because it's going to be much harder to come back to it when things get better, because I do firmly believe that things are going to get better, whether it's by some upcoming nerfs that may or may not happen, or whether rotation makes it better. So, I mean, I'm confident that things are going to get better, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm still going to keep playing until they do, because I really don't think it's as bad as maybe some other things. I mean, I know that Magic the Gathering right now is going through a pretty rough patch too. They just had to ban some cards in standard, and it was causing a big old ruckus everywhere. But you know, hopefully it's better. It's all when they do stuff like that, it just improves the game, no matter what game you're playing, right?
Yeah. I think they both mentioned us as a podcast. I'm gonna refer to what Bonica said and use those words, but I disagree with the words he chose. That I don't think he meant it this way. But we're not trying to stay positive. We are positive. Like we're the reason why we do this podcast is to make things more accessible to you, to give a different aspect, to look at something a different way, not just to try and keep positive like it's not positive for us. Like we like doing the things that make those bad experiences you listeners have and making them better. Or you know, everyone loves winning. So if we can increase your win rate, that makes you happier as a player and enjoying playing more. So hopefully that's what we're accomplishing. So I sorry to kind of misconstrue your words, but I think that's what you meant.
That's what I meant. Is just you know, it's important. Being positive, I think, is important. I think it improves your overall quality of life, whether you're talking about Hearthstone or just life in general.
Yep.
Yeah, and we want to be honest too, right? We don't want to say everything is fine. Just go ahead and play these 0-mana 5/5s and patches, and it's fine. It's no big deal. Like, it would be a disservice to all of you for us to say everything is fine, nothing is wrong, and what you hear in the other podcasts, just them being negative. Like, that wouldn't be fair to you. So we don't want to say that, but we also don't want to say everything sucks, Hearthstone sucks, this could be so much better.
Yeah.
There's a middle ground there, and we want to find the best way to be positively constructive.
Exactly.
Good point. Alrighty. So talking about playing and win rates and everything and getting better, we want to talk about something we're looking forward to in the tournaments coming up.
Yes, we do.
It's the grand tournament!
This is the most appropriate time of the year to play the Grand Tournament because it is the grandest of tournaments. World Championships are coming tonight, right? Tonight? Tomorrow? Yeah, it's
Something like
tonight.
that.
Because it starts at
I'm
2:30
checking.
a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's about 4 hours from the time of this recording. It's 11:30 p.m. Pacific Time tonight, 7:30 a.m. GMT tomorrow, and 6:30 p.m. tomorrow if you were in Sydney, Australia. Good day, mate. Hope that isn't too stereotypical. Yeah. It's fine.
Listener will tell you.
It's fine. Yes, we have quite a few Australian listeners that will all tell me how much of a jerk I am being. So we have the same information as last week. As a reminder, it's 4-day tournament. Thursday the 18th through Sunday the 21st. Best of 5 conquest. Group stage is double elimination. Cut to top 8, which is single elimination. $1 million prize pool. We've got 16 players. Stan Udachi, Frozen, Samuel Sow, and Doc Pone from Winter Champs. Hoy, Colento, Ant, Nyria from Spring Champs. Surrender, Orange, Jason Joe, and Purple from Summer Champs. And from Last Call, the points earners are Muzzy, Sintalal, Tom60229, and Omega Zero. The difference we have for you today is we know all of their deck lists, and we're going to share the archetype breakdown with you. Now, if you look here, we have an excellent list from Hearthstone Top Decks as well that did a full breakdown. We have 12 Tempo Rogues. We have, we have 16
That's a lot.
priests. 11 of them are Highlander priests. So everyone brought a priest. 15 people brought Warlock. 15 people brought Druid. The Druids are actually, they're 9 aggro token Druids, 6 Jade Druids. The Warlocks, we've got 8 controls, 6 cubes, and one of those cubes is a control, not a combo. We'll talk about that. And 1 Warlock Zoo, God bless him. We've got 3 Murloc Paladins, 1 Face Hunter, 1 Big Mage, 1 Control Mage, and that is your lineup. Now, the priests, again, 11 Raza, 3 Dragon Raza. That's 14 Raza, but some of them break Dusk. And then we've got 1 Dragon Combo and 1 Dragon Spiteful. So the metagame, a lot of homogeneity. Is that how I say it? Homogeneity? Homogeneity?
Sounds good. Roll with it.
If you're a listener and
Yeah.
you know how to pronounce that, tweet that at me as well as what you think about Frothing Berserker. So we've got Corridor Creepers in 27 of the 64 decks. So that's a lot. Not quite half, but it's in 27 of the 64 decks. Patches in 23 of them. Anduin is in 14 of them. Gul'dan is in 15 of them, so every Warlock is playing Gul'dan. All of them. And we've got 18 of 64 decks have Golakka Crawler. That is the most common card that is not a pirate or a corridor creeper. So probably a reasonable inclusion. There are also a lot of Skulking Geist, oddly enough. Well, not that oddly enough, because we've got a lot of anti-Jade builds. We've got a lot of anti-combo builds, but there's not a lot of combo. You look at it, there are not enough Jades for the Skulking Geist to make a lot of sense. Now, against Q-Block, you take out the Dark Packs. That's pretty good. Against Rogue, if they're playing Cold Blood, you take that out. I think about half of them have it. Against Raza, you don't take out much. Power Word Shield, Binding Heal, Holy Smite is not terrible.
Take out a lot of cards. It's just not necessarily the most impactful cards.
Right. It can be annoying. And then against Jade, of course, it is incredibly good. And against Aggro Druid, you take out Mark of the Lotus, but it's turn 6, so you're probably already dead. And there are a surprising amount of Aggro Druids. But you've been playing a bunch of Aggro Druid, right?
I stopped because I think it has a fairly bad matchup against another deck that we see a ton of, which I would expect more Q block, but there's a ton of control lock. Based on when they submitted these lists, I was expecting considerably more Q block, but there was a ton of people ended up bringing control lock.
And honestly, Control Warlock might be a better deck overall. If you're banning priests in the tournament format, it's 100% better, because that's the bad matchup, right? It's actually favored against Jade Druid, which is super weird, but you just stop them forever, run them out of cards, and you Geist them. And you've got double Twisting Nether, Siphon Soul, and a ton of removal. Double Twisting Nether is real good against Jade Druid, especially once you Geist them. So,
Mhm.
and because Warlock can just draw the cards, stop the attack completely, and then Gul'dan and N'Zoth back infinite taunts, you're in really good shape there. And most of the control decks are, all the control decks I think have both Gul'dan and N'Zoth. There's actually one of the Q
Yep.
blocks. Muzzy is playing Cube Control. So it's a Q block. It has Spirit Singer Umbra. It has 0 Doom Guards. It's super weird. No Doom Guards, double Twisting Nether, and a Gnome for Ratu. So he's playing Cube for the value because you think about it, we'll talk about Q block and Control Lock a lot later. Against a lot of decks, you're just a Void Lord combo deck. All you do is get as many Void Lords as you possibly can. There's no better way to do that than with Spirit Singer Umbra and Carnivorous Cube. So
Yeah, you made a comment earlier that I think it's kind of weird because you would think that Priest would be a primary ban target, but I think that if you really think about a lot of these lists and how they end up playing out, I think you're going to find a lot of banning Warlock. It seems like a lot of these guys ended up going with a strategy that is going to be much softer to control lock than it is going to be to Raza Priest. And so I think you're going to see a lot of Warlock bans this weekend.
yeah, there were a lot of decks that a lot of lineups that are aggro Jade or anti Jade, but I think it looks like the better lineups are probably anti Priest. And so you
Yep.
ban the Warlock, and almost all those lineups you ban the Warlock, and then they bring the Q block, they bring Tempo Rogue, and they bring Jade Druid. And you are
Mhm.
likely to be able to beat Priest with that matchup, with that lineup. The Q block is close, but there are a lot of different ways to beat Raza Priest, and a lot of these lineups are going to ban Warlock, especially if they have Aggro Druid. That's not a good matchup for Raza. And Tempo Rogue is even at best.
Yeah, at best. I think it's probably from my limited experience, I would say that Aggro Druid has a better matchup against Tempo Rogue than it does against Raza Priest.
Yeah. Well, and Tempo
I don't
Rogue,
know if the math or if the the data reports support that theory, but I would say that Aggro Druid is very strong against. It is the strongest aggro decks against other aggro decks, which is I think the reason why a lot of people ended up bringing it. And it also has fine matchups against obviously Priest and stuff like that.
Yep. Well, and some of the aggro druid lists are actually cutting Cryptlord, which indicates they're not looking to match up against other aggro lists. They're looking to match up against the control decks, because Cryptlord that's what you play when you have a couple solid 1s and 2s and then you protect them. So a
Yeah.
lot of them are removing them, right? So, and it's really interesting to see some of the tech that these decks are bringing as well. A lot of the rogues, we've got 5 different rogue tech choices that I saw. 2 decks have Sonya Shadow Dancer, which is definitely more for value in minion-based matchups. Really good against Control Lock, because like you bump in a Vile Spine Slayer or something, you get it back. And then the rogues, 2 of them have Cairn and 1 has the Lich King. And if you are playing Cairn and the Lich King, that means you are expecting to play against Priest. That is 100% what those cards are for, is for sticking on the board and not getting removed. Cairn in particular, it's 2 4-attack minions, and Priest has trouble dealing with the first one, and there's another one inside. So it's interesting to kind of see how people are likely targeting Priest because they knew they could depend on their opponents bringing Priest, and banning Warlock because it doesn't have a really clear, easy way to target it that can't be counter-targeted.
Yep.
And Raza is boring. Every single Raza list is like within 2 cards of each other. There is a Tar Creeper here, a Doomsayer there, but the concept is very similar. All the Tempo Rogues have at least 1 Minstrel, if not 2. And most of the Control Warlocks have Rin, which is yet another way to punish Priest.
Yeah.
I think 4 or 5 of them have Rin.
Yeah. I kind of feel like a lot of these lineups feel like something that I said very early on before I really knew how exactly a conquest meta would work, where you have your 2 decks. You have your Warlock and Priest, which are far and away, I think, the best 2 decks to be bringing, even though one specific individual ended up not bringing Warlock. But I think a lot of these people are saying, okay, So we're either going to be banning Warlock or Priest, and then we're probably essentially letting the other one through. The other one is probably going to be able to win a game. We can target it a little bit to reduce its percentage, but most likely that other thing's going to that other deck that we don't ban is going to win a game, and then we just need to beat their other two decks. And I think that's kind of what people were trying to do, is say, okay, so this is the ban. This matchup is going to be really hard, but is kind of already locked up. Let's focus on winning those other two matchups. So I think you're going to see probably a lot of these matchups come down to either mirror matches or basically third and fourth decks coming up against each other, and whoever ends up having the better third and fourth deck is going to have a lot of success. At least that's how I see it. Do you guys kind of agree with that or no?
No, I 100% agree.
Yep, and I stand by my guy Tom60229 because he is one of the rogues with the top end. I believe he is the only one that is playing the Lich King, and the Lich King right now has been performing pretty excellently in my Temper Rogue Trials and Tribulations, and he's got double Cobalt Scalebane. So that is 100% targeting Priest. And so
banning
Warlock, target Priest, and I think that's a really smart strategy. There are 3 players that are doing that. We've got him, we've got Stanu Dachi, and we've got, it looks like Doc Pone is doing the same thing. They're the ones with the Jade, Q-Block, Rogue, and Raza Priest. And so it looks like they're expecting to have their Priest get banned, and then they're going to expect to ban the other Warlock and target Priest, which I think is a pretty smart strategy. Now, it's open deckless, so I wouldn't be surprised the bans get kind of funky. But they're Raza-less. I mean, the Raza-less are all the same. I don't think there's a significant gap in technology there.
Just a quick question. I'm trying to rack my brain why you're saying Lich King is good for that deck.
So
I'm sure others may have that same question. So
it's a good point. So we're trying to, when you're playing against Priest, right? You're trying to maintain steady pressure and overload their removal. And if you have double Scalebane, you're going to bait out that Shadow Word Death early. Dragonfire Potion doesn't do very much. And then you've got Bone Mare as well. You've got a ton of juicy Anduin targets. If you Anduin on, and then I go into my turn 8 and I respond to Anduin with the Lich King. First, I get a card out of it. Second, I've got a giant threat. You've probably already used your Death, and you've already used your Anduin. Dragonfire Potion doesn't kill it. Psychic Scream is a really inefficient way of killing it. And to kill it with spells is a ton of resources. So that deck...
Gotcha. So it's not just the Lich King itself. It's just the overall strategy of having Lich King after their answers.
Yeah, well,
having something.
If I play the Lich King and you're a control deck and you don't answer it or kill me, you're gonna die to it, and it's gonna generate a lot of pressure. You could get a Death Coil off of it or a Death Grip. The dealing 5 to them is pushing extra damage. Anti-Magic Shell is insane in that matchup because that means the only way to kill the minions is Psychic Scream or a Dragonfire Potion if the minions are small enough. And Death Grip taking a minion out of their deck. If you grab Velen, you cut their combo in half. If you grab Raza, you eliminate their combo. So the Death Knight cards are generally pretty decent. You have a big threat after your other big threats. It just really elevates your threat density. And it speaks to the philosophy of how the deck is built with the Scalebanes of maintain constant pressure, stress their removal, and have the ability to build a big and powerful board with limited card investment so that board wipes don't put you back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, and Control Yourself also brings up a good point about you're seeing not a lot of Spellbreakers in these lists, which definitely tends towards banning Warlock, because if you're most likely expecting Warlock, and so Spellbreaker is obviously a card you're going to need to be able to get through the Void Daddy. But I do find it kind of interesting that I remember going through some of the lists, and some people were still bringing Spellbreakers anyway, in not just the Warlock, for the Q-Block mirror. So I'm kind of interested to see why some people decided to still include Spellbreakers if Warlock is the targeted ban. But overall, the 2 people that stood out to me most were Scintillol I really, really liked his lineup, except for the big mage. Wasn't a huge fan of mage. I really like the idea um, of combo dragon priest just because I've been playing that deck a lot. I think it's pretty good. But I don't really know. He's obviously like very anti aggro deck, but or very anti aggro lineup, but I just don't know that combo dragon priest is going to be better off than one of the other than like Raza priest for the aggro matchups. He obviously feels like it's better, but I don't know that I necessarily agree with him. And the other person that stood out to me was Colento. Just I think he had the lineup that stood out to me as the most solid. Just when I looked over his lists, those were the ones that made the most sense to me. I don't know how much I love Jade anymore now that I've thought about it a little more, but he was the one I ended up choosing as my champion. So I don't think that you can really go wrong choosing him.
I just happened to pick Colento because Appa told me to.
It's a safe bet. If you picked him
There you
because
go.
his name was Colento, if Boddock's like, well, I looked at his decks, then I looked at the name, and it was Colento on the top, so that's why I picked him, I'd be like, that's a good choice. I can't really argue with that.
So hopefully we get you some packs.
Yeah, hopefully.
Anything else you'd like to add, Hat?
Yeah, I was thinking I hadn't talked enough, but, maybe. Yeah, I'm good.
Let's see here. Whoa. I think we're covered pretty much on that. We'll move forward then. So let me share the iTunes. Thank you. So.
Oh, you're the most heavy metal thing I've ever seen.
Thank you, Falooza, for being heavy metal there. I titled it pretty good. Great podcast with knowledgeable hosts. Conversations are always informative and inclusive. They do a good job of setting up topics and not assuming too much obscure game knowledge beforehand. We try our best. That's my little add in there. Just guys, please, it's okay to talk over the bumpers after they've played for a little bit. Keep up the good work. All right. So thank you very much for your feedback. We appreciate it. We take feedback to heart. I think Kat wanted to say something here real quick.
Yep, I edit the bumpers in post-production. I just drop them in, so I'm going to try more aggressively crossfading them and see if it makes the episode a little bit shorter and makes the transitions a little bit more clean. And thank you very much for the feedback.
All right. So that's it for the thank yous. Thank you for that. If you'd like to leave a thank you, again, we include the link in the show itself embedded in the MP3. So if you want to click on your device and leave a review right there, you can, or you can check our show notes. It's on there as well, or the website www.coinconcede.com. So let's go into our explanations.
All right, so this week we're going to be doing a little deck doctor segment. Mr. SC2 Forever has that perk going as part of our Patreon. So we're going to go over his Control Warlock list that he has here. Go through the list very quickly. It's got 2 Librarians, 2 Mistress of Mixtures, 2 Defiles, 2 Plated Beetles, 2 Stonehill Defenders, 2 Hellfires, 2 Spellstones, 1 Spellbreaker, 1 Darkness, 2 Bloodworms, 2 Possessed Lackeys, a Tarlurker, Rin, the First Disciple, 1 Siphon Soul, 1 Skulking Geist, 2 Twisting Nether, 2 Void Lord, a Gul'dan, and a N'Zoth. So I've been playing quite a bit of the Control Warlock lately, just trying to get a better idea kind of how the deck plays. And from my brief experience with the deck, I'm still not 100% sold on N'Zoth unless you're really expecting the mirror. It is a card that you're not going to want to be missing. I wrote this last week about it, and the more I've played it, I think N'Zoth definitely earns a spot in there, but I'm still not 100% on it. It's definitely been good for me, but I don't. There's been just a lot of situations where I haven't felt like I needed it. So let's see. If you are ever going to beat Raza Priest, I think that Dirty Rat is a very important key to that. I know we have the Darkness in the deck, but it just doesn't feel like a reliable enough card. It's obviously more reliable on turn 4 than like a Dirty Rat, but as the game goes on, it is something that if your opponent is paying attention to, they can kind of get through it. And I also think that Dirty Rat is much better in other matchups or it's much more useful in other matchups than the Darkness. The Tarlurker is pretty interesting inclusion, but I don't really see any reasons why it probably shouldn't just be like a Tar Creeper or something. I think Tar Creeper overall just is better stats. It comes down earlier. I don't know. What have you guys taken a look at the deck? What are kind of your thoughts?
The reason to play Tar Lurker is that the butt is larger.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a strategic recommendation, but that's not what you said. You said there's no reason. Au contraire, there is a reason. Now, Bloodworm, Amnesiac was playing that for a little while, but I agree that I think there's better choices. The Darkness, I think there's a world where you can play it. I think it's cool. I did do a coaching session with Esperoth. She has a golden one. We played it in Wild. We got it to trigger exactly once. It was fantastic, but playing it as just an expensive counter to the card Raza feels a little sketchy to me. It's the approach that I've taken playing Control Warlock against Priest is that either I play cubes and the combo, or I give up on that matchup. Because even with the cubes, it's not super favored. And without the cubes, it's like a 65-35 matchup at best. Mulliganing hard for the Darkness doesn't feel like a way to really turn that around aggressively. I think if you want to beat it, you do the Mountain Giant thing, you do the cube thing, and you hope that's good enough. And it is probably about half the time, right? If not a little bit less. Otherwise,
yeah, and that's the cube version, right?
Yeah, the cube version is probably just under 50% against Raza Priest. The non-cube version is significantly lower.
Yes.
And other than that, this is not too far from the list that we're seeing already in Control Warlock. I do think that 2 Nether, Blood Reaver, Gul'dan, and N'Zoth is the right package to go for the long game, and this is pretty close to what we've seen a lot of top players use. Plated Beetle has really impressed me. I think it's a great card. I do think Dirty Rat probably deserves a spot, and Stonehill Defender seems okay. It's not the most exciting card, but it seems fine.
I really like the Stonehill just because having something to do on turn 3 against your aggressive matchups that is not tap and hope that you get to play a 1-drop, I think is just a significantly better turn. And also just having the opportunity to get Rin in certain matchups that it's going to be very important, or extra Dirty Rat. You have your bad matchups of Raza Priest and Exodia Mage. Obviously, Exodia Mage is not really super present on the ladder, but it is a deck that you have a problem with, and the more popular this gets, the more likely you are to see something like that. And just Dirty Rat is a key to gaining some percentage in those matchups.
Yeah, it's Dirty Rat has impressed me a lot in this meta, because you either take a little dirtily dude against Paladin, and if you pull a South Sea deckhand out of their hand, it's fine. And so it's good against the aggro decks because they just don't have a high end outside of Corridor Creeper. That is your lowest roll, as opposed to, when they used to top out well above Corridor Creeper. And then against the control decks, you disrupt their strategy. So it's been an impressively powerful card that I've played with in this meta, and I think it deserves a spot in most builds. Or you could throw in Galactic Crawlers if you felt like being better against aggro. That might make sense over the Bloodworms. I think the key to beating aggro a lot of the time is just go low curve, but I don't foresee this deck having problems against aggro, though there are no Mortal Coils in here. I do miss Mortal Coil, because I think that card just kind of lubricates the operation of the deck, right? It just makes it a little bit more smooth.
Okay. My version of Control Warlock, I've been dumping the Mortal Coils and haven't really felt like I've missed it, but my win rate against aggro has not been great, and that might be a big reason why. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a big reason why, but yeah, I currently haven't really been running Mortal Coil.
So, my 2 cents here. I'm unsure with the Bloodworm, kind of like what you've been mentioning, and I think my main point is it's a 5 mana cost card, and you have Rin in there, which will have 5 cost cards, so you're competing against your other 5 mana. I don't know. I don't know. And
Bloodworm
see,
seems like a card if you're playing Corpse Taker. That's a card, like, if you're playing Corpse Takers in your deck, then
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and you
then
have
want
the
the Bloodworms.
the Zealot, the Tainted Zealot.
Yep.
Because then, if you have those in the deck, then it has everything except Windfear, right? It's a bubble, taunt, lifesteal. You could also, if you didn't want to play Spellbreaker or the Darkness, you could play Valinar, and it serves a similar purpose.
And I understand the Skulking Geist against Jade if you're worried about it.
Yeah.
But then you also still have Rin, so there's some.
They can play if they know you're trying to Rin them, then they can play around.
That's true. It gives them
Rin
plenty
with
of time
Jade.
to do that.
Well, and they can
Well,
hold the
they-
Jade Idol in their hand,
Yeah.
and then after you get a Zaried, you just shuffle it back in.
Yeah.
And Skulking Geist is really good in this meta. You take Inner Fires, you take Dark Packs, you take Cold Bloods, you take Holy Smites and Power Word Shields. It's got a lot of targets. It's
Okay.
and this deck doesn't have any Dark Packs. That's what it's missing. It has no Dark Packs.
Yeah.
It's because Dark
That's probably
Pact.
why the Bloodworm's in there for the heal.
Yeah, but you want to have at least one Dark Pact for eating the Possessed Lackey, because if you can eat that on turn 5 with the coin or turn 6, it's still saving 3 mana and gaining 8 life on a Void Lord. And the faster you get that out against aggro, it's just their aggressive game just stops unless they have a Spellbreaker. It's just over.
Yep.
And Azoth is a more win more card.
It can feel like that's it definitely feels like that a lot of time, or at least it has felt like that to me.
I don't know.
The Darkness, I'm kind of on the same page with you guys. So that's kind of my breakdown of it.
Yeah, N'Zoth also is like, I wouldn't want to not have it against the mirror, which is a good portion of the meta.
It's good and wild too.
So.
Yeah, well, and it gains you back a lot of life. It's not just for Void Lords. It gets you back Plated Beetles and Mistress of Mixtures. So you get back a lot of cards that are relevant, and you get back Rin too.
Yeah, that's the most important one to get back is Rin.
Well,
especially if
Void
you're
Lord.
running into especially if you're running into like silences, because a lot of times if they know that Rin is going to be your plan, then they'll silence it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought I would, since we're kind of talking about Control and Cube Warlock and all this, I thought I'd do a hopefully quick breakdown of kind of all the cards and why they're in the deck, and maybe any little niche situations with them. But so I'll go over it real quick. I have it in mana cost order. So Dark Pact, a lot of control lists have been cutting down to one of these. I think it's often strongest play is to save it with coin to be able to coin out your lackey and Dark Pact it right away. It's also important to realize that it can be pretty important in like the mage matchup to Dark Pact your Void Lord right away, just to make sure that you're gonna be getting it back with Blood Reaver, Gul'dan, and N'Zoth, just so that mage can't polymorph it, because a lot of times they save both of their polymorphs for the Void Lords. Kobold Librarian was a card that was talked about a lot in the spoiler. I feel like it it feels to me like it's overlooked, but it's just a super powerful card. It does so much for the deck. It gives a little bit of early game against the aggro decks, levels up your spellstone, and one of the biggest things is just being able to play it in combination with Defile to give you that extra tick, essentially adding a spell power to the first part of it. Mistress of Mixtures, just very standard card. Feels like it's usually a turn one play, even at full life, especially when you don't have coin, because you can just tap on the second turn before trading. Mortal Coil. This is a card I haven't been playing much lately. I think I want to find room for it back in the deck. It's obviously great early game removal. It's definitely played in the cube version, right? It's been really good for you in the cube version, I assume.
I like Mortal Coil in both. I think it's very easy to cycle, and it has a lot of usability in a lot of matchups. Even against Priest, they play a lot of cheap little minions, and it really makes Defile a lot more flexible because you can just shave off one minion to make sure that your Defile gets a nice chain. It's I've been glad to have it in most matchups, and you can frequently use it without drawing the card if you're worried about drawing too many cards, which almost always happens in the mirror. It's obviously not ideal, but I think against the aggressive decks, and with so many patches in the meta, I think you have to play it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably try to find room for it, but that you made a really good point that there are definitely matchups where you do not want to be drawing as many cards once you kind of have your very important ones. So sometimes it's correct just to use it to make a better Defile, or to even just to get it out of your hand to not draw the card with it. Defile. All I can really say about this is Defile math can be pretty hard. So if you should be looking at board states and thinking about how you're going to set up your Defile turns early. I did a coaching with Leviticus yesterday, and we got a Defile as Raza Priest, and we had this turn which would have been a pretty good Defile turn, but there just wasn't enough time to think through all the permutations to be able to get it correct. So, if there's a card to practice working with or thinking about, it's Defile, because it can be pretty hard to do. Dirty Rat. I'm a really big fan of Dirty Rat. It is often the way that you win against your tougher matchups. It's just useful in a ton of different situations, but you have to be extremely careful with when you use it. If you can at all afford to save it till you're able to, respond to whatever it pulls out, it's important to do that. But definitely, obviously, against Priest, you want to wait till around turn 4 to try to pull out Razas, and against Mage, you really want to wait till the later game to try to pull out Dragon Collar Lana, etc., etc. Gnome I've been seeing in a few lists. I guess it helps a little bit with fatigue, because there are quite a few matchups that kind of come down to fatigue, but not really personally a fan. The most recent card that I cut from the list, Bloodmage Thalnos, and I kind of put Tainted Zealot in there. It's really only for comboing with Defiles. I just haven't been super thrilled with Bloodmage Thalnos because it's a death rattle that kind of takes up a spot with N'Zoth. I think that's probably where my Mortal Coil is going to come in, is I'll replace the Thalnos with a Mortal Coil or something, because it kind of does a similar thing. Play to Beetle. This card's been just super good. I've seen it in a few different decks. Just
This
a
was
great
like a
turn.
sleeper card from. I didn't think I'd be seeing this kind of card in this deck, but it's been good. I'm sorry to jump in there real quick.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's just against the aggro decks, you generally don't want to be tapping on turn 2. So having a card that you can play on turn 2, this is probably the best one.
It's 2-mana 2/3s it turns out, have been almost good enough for a while. Almost good enough. Remember when we were all playing Flame Juggler? 2-mana 2/3 that dealt 1 damage, and that was good enough. So gaining 3 armor is definitely good enough. It's impressed me with how much it matters. It feels kind of weird that it matters so much, but like the 3 life that you take away from Hellfire, imagine if Hellfire said deal 3 damage to all minions and your opponent. That's what this card does. So, I don't know, it's enough of a difference that I notice getting the health back, and N'Zothing it back is really great.
Yep. Next card, Stonehill Defender. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Just finding extra dirty rats in the matchups you need to. Finding a Rin is really good, and just against the aggro decks, having the 3-drop instead of tapping the replaces a card in your hand is just quite solid. I've been a really big fan of Stonehill Defender. Have you played much with Prince Tal'Daram and Q Block, Hat? This is almost exclusively seen only in Q Block, is the Prince Tal'Daram.
Oh yeah, this is a combo card. You play this if you want to combo better. It originally replaced Umbra. Most of the lists I see now play Umbra and this card, and it's Umbra. By having this in your deck, you actually get to play Umbra on 4 like a Thandrel, and either you get benefit out of it or you don't, and it's fine because it's a 4-mana soft taunt 3/4. It's Tal'Daram just lets you copy a cube, and then you can Dark Pact, and you're happy, right? It's you don't kill quite as quickly, but it's also more flexible because you can eat something with a cube and copy it right away, and then you get 2 copies, or you can copy a Doomguard and it's 3 mana, deal 3 damage, which is fine. It does a lot for you and is more flexible. I think the correct play is to include this and Umbra, but some lists are cutting Umbra because Tal'Daram does the same thing or a similar thing.
Also, a big play that I heard Blister Guy talk about on his last podcast is he's copied a lot of patches to take out captains, which is a pretty sweet play.
That's really interesting.
Yep. Hellfire, just not much to say. Solid all-around card. Good against aggro. Helps get through Voidwalkers after Voidlord spits them out. Spellstone, this is your creeper removal. That's probably the card I see it take out the most. It's really solid at doing that, so you don't have to waste like a Siphon Soul on it. Spellbreaker is probably the most common tech card I see. It's really great in the mirror, especially if your opponent kind of leaves out a naked cube. I guess that's not the mirror, but just good against cubes, good against a lot of the stuff in the Warlock deck. So pretty worthy inclusion. As you were saying, Spirit Singer Umbra Hat, you believe that this is worth including or not?
100% I believe the correct build. I think Zalay got it right when he first publicized the build that had double Mountain Giant, Umbra, Tal'Daram, and 2 Faceless Manipulators. All you're trying to do with Q Block is figure out a broken synergy, whichever minion is best in that matchup, which is either a cube that contains something gross, or just Doomguards themselves, or Voidlords, and just copy them, copy them, copy them, copy them. And Umbra can be a mid-range minion on 4 if you play it with other combo pieces in your deck because you don't rely on it, and it also can generate some absolutely gross value, because if you go turn 4 Umbra, turn 5 Lackey, you probably win that game. If you go turn 9, if you have any kind of demon in play, and then you go Umbra Cube, it's disgusting. And then there's, of course, you actually get to kill them with Umbra. I think it makes a lot of sense to include. There's actually a couple builds that apparently are playing Umbra without the combo, which I think is fascinating, because there's a lot of reliable, valuable death rattles here. Like, you can just play cards with big, nice death rattles and be happy about it. So, I've been impressed by how the card has played in Q Block. I think it deserves a spot.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add about maybe Cube? Any specific things? I just know that it's really important, if you can help it, to not expose it to a silence, because this is a primary silence target if you've eaten anything of use with it.
It's getting your cube silenced when it has something good inside of it is like getting kicked in whatever region of your body that you feel hurts the most. I'll leave it up to the listener to decide which region that is. But it hurts. It's very, very painful. You just lose so much value. Cube is, but if you're against a deck that can't silence it or is unlikely to silence it, and you win by playing it that way, you can still do it. It's a surprisingly flexible card. It has a lot of value. If you eat an early Void Lord, or even if you eat a Lackey and then you get 2 Lackeys back, like, that's fine. Cube is a card that is a literal generation of value over time. You convert the value of whatever you're eating, you trigger the death rattle, and then you get back 2 of them to convert more value over time. It is a straight-up value generation tool along with a 5-mana 4/6. You can eat plated beetles, you can eat dirty rats, you can eat whatever you want, and then once it starts becoming a combo card, when it starts eating Void Lords and Doom Guards, it gets out of control really quickly, especially if you pair it with Tal'Daram or Faceless Manipulator. And the best way to
Or
protect
Umbra.
it from silence is by playing it with some kind of copy minion. Because all you want to do is copy it so that they can silence one, then they lose to the other. It's what I've been impressed by Q Block is how synergistic the deck is and how powerful turn 5 Skull of the Minari is. And we haven't talked about the card yet, but it is Q Block only. And every time this triggers, it generates you a ton of mana slowly, but it generates you mana, and your deck is very, very good at taking advantage of it. Because either you get a Void Lord on turn 6, which is great, or you get a Doom Guard on turn 6 without discarding
And don't
cards,
discarding cards, yeah.
which is also great. And then that's when you can take advantage of that free mana to do more than you're supposed to do that turn with the cube and a Dark Pact. Or if it's turn 7 or later in the game, if it's turn 8 with the cube and then a Tal'Daram. Or if it's turn 9 with Umbra and the cube. Or if it's turn 10 with cube and Faceless. Or any number of combinations. There's a lot of ways to take advantage of it. Skull of the Minari, you use it in a deck that's great at dominating the early game board presence, and then you take advantage of that by playing something that generates you value and mana over time. So all you do is kind of stop the early game from happening, and then you start playing your own game. And once you start playing your own game as Q Block, you very rarely lose against any kind of minion-based pressure.
Yep, and make sure don't play this in the deck where you have Rin in it if your point is to destroy their deck, because you will pull out Azari from your hand.
Yes.
So non-bow with Rin, unfortunately.
Well, you only get a free 10/10.
Only a free 10/10. Yeah, the games where this activates 2 times over the course of 2 turns are disgusting. Like when you have 2 demons in your hand and it activates both times, it's really good. Let's see, I have Doomguard on here, obviously, because these do a lot of damage. That's all I put for it. Possessed Lackey, one of the cards that's most been talked about a lot recently as one of the cards that could potentially use a nerf, because getting out the cheating out these demons in the deck is kind of what makes the whole deck hum and makes it do the broken things. Were you gonna say something, Kenny?
No, kind of
Okay.
getting some stuff together on my end at the end here for you.
Got it. Okay. Faceless Manipulator, obviously copying Doom Guards and Cubes are most likely targets. Don't forget that you can copy your opponent's stuff, which I've seen happen on occasion. Skulking Geist, you essentially need this in your deck just to beat Jade Druid. It makes that matchup pretty laughable as long as you get it in a reasonable time frame. It's also pretty useful against Raza Priest, I think, and always make sure that if you can get some value off your Dark Packs and are planning on playing the Skulking Geist early, use your Dark Packs early, even if it's somewhat inefficient, just because those are going to go away. Same with Mortal Coil. Siphon Soul, I've been seeing most lists that run only one. I've been using 2, and I've liked it quite a bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if one was correct. Twisting Nether, this is your emergency button. This is the card where it's most important against your controlling matchups to figure out when you absolutely have to use it and when you need to save one to be able to beat certain cards like Dragon Call or Alana in their deck. Void Lord, just the Void Daddy. Aggro players hate it. Pretty much everybody hates this card right now. It's just a lot of butt. Well, I guess Hat doesn't hate it because it's so much butt.
There's a lot of bang for your butt.
It's just real solid card. It's going to be in every one of these Warlock decks. Blood River Gul'dan, it's just the best late game that Warlock has right now. In a lot of situations, like I've been seeing a lot of Big Mage, and Big Mage just cannot beat Gul'dan if it's in your top 20 cards. if you can get anywhere near stable, and you just play Gul'dan and just hero power them every turn and try not to play any creatures, or you hero power their minions because their hero power will just not match up against yours if you don't give them anything to make water elementals. N'Zoth the Corruptor seems like it's just a card that you should have in the control decks. Gets back your Void Lords, gets back your Rins, and you need it to be able to stand a chance in the mirror. Because if they have it and you don't, then you're in a really bad spot. And then Mountain Giant, this is your card for the Priest and the Druid matchup because you just play it on turn 4 and smash them in the face. And that's pretty much all the cards that are in Cube and Control Lock. I know most people knew about all the cards, but hopefully I was able to get in some corner case situations in there for you. Looks like Kenny's going to talk a little bit about some of the differences between the standard versions and the wild, because from what I understand, this is a pretty popular deck in wild too.
Yeah, so I would say the main things that are different, you see Void Callers, Sylvanas, Milganis. Those are the ones that you're going to see. You don't really see the Prince in there. Well, you have as let's see, who was it? Marspad, and it says Prince with Mal'Ganis is good in wild. He's seen it. Gnome Feratu's in there in wild too, but I know it's not a wild card. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that I've seen.
What are your guys' stance on Gnome Feratu? I kind of talked about it a little bit. Do you think it's worth including in either any of these versions, standard or wild?
It depends on if you're playing singleton decks versus singleton decks.
I don't think
I still don't know if I would do it.
I don't think that's the approach I would take with it. I think it's worth playing in fatigue matchups, because if you were expecting to get rid of a single card or a specific card, you are likely going to be disappointed most of the time, and you are most of the time going to get them closer to that card. But if you are looking to get any card because you want your opponent to be closer to fatigue, and it's just a 2-drop that you can play whenever you want, then by all means play it. And I think that's where it makes the most sense to include it, in that if you're looking to win fatigue matchups, but I wouldn't include it if you're looking to say, I just have to get their Raza or their Anduin. There are better tools for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but I could definitely see if you're expecting a lot of fatigue matchups for it to be a at least consideration for the deck.
I wouldn't. I'm not a fan of that as a card in the deck. I don't play too many control type decks or play control decks very often to know how good that would be. But I foresee Gnome Feratu would be a very high roll card. It's like it's not consistent, not something. I wouldn't be throwing it in there, but that's me. So those are just the 3 cards that are Mal'Ganis, Sylvanas, and Void Caller that you see in wild.
Do they play Emperor Thaurissan?
Sometimes, yeah.
That card seems real good.
It is good.
And also,
Blood Reaver Gul'dan.
You can play Dark Bomb. Remember Dark Bomb?
Yeah, I've seen that too. That's
that
a very common one too. I missed that one.
Yeah, well, it's Dark Bomb. It's like, it's the unsung hero, right? No one's like, oh, he gets to play 2 mana and deal 3 damage, but it matters a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just my quick little side note there I wanted to add at the end.
So I am not really much of a control player. I've been trying to pick this up because it's a deck that if you're playing in both the cube or control versions, one of them should be in your lineup, I believe, if you're going to be playing in any tournaments. So it's really important to be able to know the deck inside and out, knowing all of the different little tweaks that they could have in the deck, and being able to know pretty early, okay, they played a beetle, that's probably going to be in the more controlling versions. Okay, they played they coined out a Skull of the Minari, I'm probably screwed because that card's really good. But just having an understanding of why all the cards are in the deck is important, and knowing how it functions.
I have one more I didn't think of. I've seen Baron Rivendare sometimes too with some of the death rattles.
Ooh,
Can be
that's saucy.
pretty crazy too.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a lot of death rattles.
Yeah. Alrighty. That was good. I like it. Let's squeeze in our email. I think we got enough time here to go into our email.
Rock is dead.
All right.
All right.
So, oh, sorry.
I'm going to jump in here. I want to apologize ahead of time that we have been saying we were going to prioritize this for several weeks. Same with the deck docker too. So we got around to it. So my apologies, and go ahead and take it. Bye.
So Fluffy, we apologize, but we really wanted to be able to give this question the time that it deserves because I think it's a really good question. I don't know that I have a great answer for it, but I think it is a good question and something you should definitely be thinking about. So the question is, how do you make the final decision before making a play? This is the most important thing I need to he has it in quotes. This is the most important thing I need to take into consideration when making this play. How does the final decision before your play change based on the situation? Very specific examples would be helpful when answering this. Thanks. So, kind of my simple answer for this is I just make whatever play stands out to me immediately. The longer and more complicated answer to the question is I kind of decide what stance I'm going to take on a certain play, make it over and over again until I determine whether I feel it is correct or not. So like if especially this happens a lot in mulligan decisions, I just kind of decide when I go into a matchup, I'm like, okay, in this matchup, I'm going to try keeping this card every time until I feel like it's not worth keeping in my opening hand, and just see where it goes from there. A lot of times when I have significantly more complicated plays, the way I try to think about the plays, I start at the end. I'm like, okay, here's the result I want to get from the play at the end of this turn. So are there any plays I need to make before it that could potentially change how I go about making the play for the turn? So if I know I'm specifically going to cast this spell, then I'll be like, okay, is there anything cards that draw random cards or draw cards from my deck that I can play before it, et cetera, et cetera. What do you guys think? Kenny, how do you kind of decide on how you make your plays?
So I like you're kind of getting there with how I think of it sometimes. If I really want to get in depth, and sometimes I just want to veg out and just play whatever and not think about it too much. But if I'm being really serious and wanting to climb up the ladder and do well, I think about and you hear this all the time. A lot of players think, oh, I'm thinking 2 turns ahead of what, if I play this, then they play that. I'll first think about what the other player's first couple turns would normally be, or what their what to expect from them, or as like best case scenario, and think about my best case scenario next, because that keeps their play in mind when I'm thinking about my mulligan or what I'm going to be dropping. Like when we were playing our show match, there was a couple times where I was hesitating when I had lethal, but I was thinking, do I really I really wanted to think about it. So that's, Bot was joking around like, he has lethal, does he see it? He's like, yeah, I see it, but is it safe just to not play this card? So I knew that eventually I would be getting him down. There was no point in me not popping his ice block, is what I was originally thinking he could have. But then I realized, well, this type of deck normally doesn't play ice block, so it doesn't hurt to do this. And I had a weapon in my hand anyway. So, but yeah. So that's kind of my thought process. I hope that works out as giving you an example too. So,
what do you think, Hat?
So, final decision, just go for it. Right? You're gonna think about a couple plays. Usually, I end up deciding. My problem has always been playing too fast. I come up with a snap call. I have to resist the urge to do it. Then I have to think of a second play before I make the first play. That is my rule, is I have to have a second play that's an option this turn. Otherwise, I just make the first play. And really, if you want to get high-level play, the real answer is, do I make this play or not? And if I, because sometimes the correct play is to do nothing. And that's really hard for me. But sometimes there have been so many times where I've had Swashbuckler in hand on turn 1 and Tempo Rogue, and it's better as a combo enabler on turn 4. So I say, do I play Swashbuckler or not? Those are the two plays. But as you just think, this is the only one drop in my hand, of course I'm going to play it. No, you're not. You don't know. But after you consider, what about this play? What about this alternative? What do these both mean a couple turns down the line? Once you made the call of which is better, you can stare at your hand for a little bit longer and make more plays. But if you've made a decision on, say, this is better because in 2 turns I'm going to be able to go Coin, Swashbuckler, Edwin Van Cleef. If you decide that, just go for it. At that point, you can't make sure it is the best play. You can make sure it's the play you believe in the most at that instance. And I think a very important part of Hearthstone is understanding the difference between those two things. Is that, first of all, you're going to make misplays. Second of all, you're going to make plays that are correct given the information you have, but you have incomplete information. And once you make peace with those two things and realize that your play might have been the one you should have made knowing what you know, but didn't work out, that's a good place to be, because sometimes it's going to happen.
Very well put.
I like all of our answers. You can pick your favorite one or just combine them all together.
Well, no, you have to choose which answer is best and make a final decision.
But you gotta think about what you're gonna play though.
Yeah, well, which answer will be the
okay.
best 2 episodes from now?
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
What if we change hosts? What then? We're playing around your question.
I think you should choose one of them, try it a bunch of times, and if it's not working, then try a different one.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we've got a couple more questions. We've
Yeah,
got
let's cover 'em.
one from Dramaset, who said, just wrapped up listening to Same Tamer Hall of Fame. Wanted to follow up on Auctioneer. Many episodes ago, Appa suggested making it legendary. Following your thoughts on that now, and maybe if there are other cards that should become legendary. So, I think this is an excellent idea. Legendaries are difficult to design, and I want to think about some of the better legendaries we've had in the game, because you don't want one like Keliseth or Reno, where if you draw it, you win, and if you don't, you lose. That is poor design. You want a unique effect. You want it to be kind of game-defining when you play it, but not game-winning every time. You want to put a little bit of work into it, and you want to have some payoff. So, good examples. Sunkeeper Tarim. Great example of a good legendary. Alexstrasza. Unique effect. Takes some work. Doesn't always win. Lord Jaraxxus. Great effect. Poor examples. Patches, Keliseth, Reno. I think those are... And Reno is a flashy effect. If you're going to print that effect, it should be legendary. But it creates a lot of feel-bad moments. So, think about Auctioneer. Auctioneer is 100% game-changing. It creates interesting board states. It requires investment. It's a deck-building challenge, and it provides a significant payoff. Also, it would be legendary. It would only happen once a game. I think that's a really cool idea that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm thinking about cards that would be crappy as a legendary would be like Kirin Tormage. If Kirin Tormage was a legendary, either you got it or you didn't on turn 3. That would feel really bad. But then you think about other cards that would be cool as legendary. What if Corridor Creeper was a legendary? What if you got one of those? Now, I think it's still not a super fun mechanic in that sometimes one player has a free 5/5, sometimes one player doesn't. But I'm trying to think about, it has to be a powerful, interesting effect that you don't see all that often. A lot of this would apply to like epic spells in a lot of ways. A lot of like Call of the Wild at 8 as a legendary spell, I think would have been super cool, because you get it once, but you don't get it twice. And a lot of the problem with Call of the Wild were when you played it on turn 8 and then played it on turn 10 with a hero power. That was too good. Couldn't do that. But if you only get to play it once at 8 mana, it's probably balanced. What do you all think?
UI, I think, also falls under that category.
Yeah,
right?
that would be great. That would be a perfect legendary.
Yeah, so my knee-jerk reaction is I either want 2 Auctioneers or I want them to Hall of Fame it. But what you said makes a lot of sense. I've always been a big fan of playing with Auctioneers, so it's hard for me to want to give up half of my Auctioneers. I want all of them.
Well, Rogue has some cards that help draw it better too. So, my thing, I'm gonna fall in line with what Pat was saying, but it can't be called Gadgets and Auctioneer. It's got to have a name to feel legendary, right? It's not like just hey, there's an auctioneer in Gadgets and he's legendary, but he doesn't have a name.
It'd
he's
be
just
like
an
Auction
auctioneer.
Master. It'd be Auction Master or something, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's Trade Prince Galawix would have been this card, right? If this was a legendary, it would have been Trade Prince Galawix. And you can flavorize pretty much anything. The question is kind of working backwards from the effect. I think the pendulum actually swung a little bit too far towards interesting but niche in KNC in the current set. Because if I want to make Skull of the Minari, it's for exactly one deck. If I want to make Alaneth, it's for exactly one deck. If I want to make Spirit Singer Umbra, which isn't even from this set, it's for exactly one deck. I don't want legendaries that I make to play one deck. I want them to have a little bit more use. So the Death Knights, I think, were really good examples of well-designed legendaries. Unique effect, powerful, game-changing, not always game-winning, flashy. I think those were great examples of some of the best designed legendaries the game has seen in a long time. So it's hard to kind of think of this on the spot, but any unique, interesting effects that you want to kind of drop in the late game, or can be something like Zeril the Poison Mind or Blood Mage Thalnos or Shaku the Collector, where it's early game value generation, but not early game giant thing, right? Because a legendary Totem Golem would be no fun for anybody. But Blood Mage Thalnos, I think, is a great example of a legendary. People are hesitant to craft it, but anyone that's played with the card, it does a little bit more than you could make it do if it were an epic. If it were an epic, you'd have to take something off of it. It'd have to be a 0-1 or something, or it'd have to have some kind of other compromise that, like, draw... the death rattle would be like, draw a card if this died on your turn, something like that. You couldn't make it as good as it is, because if you drew 2 in the opening hand, you would just have too much consistent spell power and too much consistent cycle. It'd be a little bit too good. So I think that's a great example of what an early game legendary should look like, but it shouldn't look like Keleseth, where if you draw it, you win, and if you don't draw it, you lose, or at least it feels that way, and it dramatically influences win rates by whether or not it's in your opening hand.
Yep, that all makes sense.
Hey, I have a quick fire question. Can we do that?
Yeah.
We got enough time.
Yep.
All right, this is from Steven Sensei. We have Aggro Paladin or Murloc Paladin, and why? I'm going to go with Bot first.
Oh, I was going to have hat. Okay. Well,
Well,
anyway.
he just talked. So.
Yeah, he did. Okay. So my stance on the Aggro Paladin versus Murloc Paladin is that Aggro Paladin makes significantly better use of Call to Arms and Divine Favor, which I think are your 2 most powerful cards in that deck. The charge minions give it a lot of unpredictability, I guess is the best way to describe it. Whereas the Murloc Paladin is obviously trying to, all of its minions do something, like are better individually. So personally, I think Aggro Paladin is the better Paladin, but obviously there's been seeing quite a bit more Murloc Paladin lately. And I know that was a quick fire question, and I probably took too long to answer it.
All right, Hat. You can take.
Oh yes, let's go for the short answer from Ridiculous Hat. That'll happen.
Yeah.
Aggro Paladin has more burst. I feel like when I lose to it that it's a better deck, but I feel like when I play with it that it's a worse deck. And when I've played with Murloc Paladin, I felt more in control of my destiny. It doesn't play Divine Favor, which makes me feel good. It does play Call to Arms, which makes me feel good. I like Murloc a little bit more right now. I reserve the right to change my answer when I get smacked in the face with a Rallying Blade and then Divine Favored on turn 4.
That's hilarious because you said the exact opposite of how I feel. I feel like the deck is... I feel like Aggro Paladin is terrible when I'm playing against it. I don't think it's good when I'm playing against it, but it feels really good when I'm playing it, and the opposite for Murloc Paladin.
Maybe that speaks to draw dependency. I don't know, or matchup dependency.
Maybe we just haven't played enough games of either.
Well, Murloc Paladin
against.
Murloc Paladin feels like Zoo, right? Like you just get in the board real fast. They can't remove you from the board, and then you smack them in the face, like, and then it's Zoo with Call to Arms. Like, how good is that?
I don't know. Call to Arms is.
I'm muting you.
I like Murloc Paladin in the Aggro Paladin matchup, like Mirror, if you want to call it Mirror, because they're both different. I like both. I like playing aggro paladin more than Murloc paladin, but I see Murloc paladin's strength in its tribe synergy. So,
But would you
all
agree that Call to Arms is better in the aggro paladin deck than it is in the Murloc paladin deck, or no?
It's the list I've been playing has all the usual suspects. If I am getting Knife Juggler and Righteous Protector, I'm good. Those are the two cards I want to see. If it pulls out a
Mhm.
Hydrologist and a Rockpool Hunter, yeah, maybe that's not quite as good as Southsea Deckhand or Direwolf Alpha, but I'm still fine. And then I play War Leader or Megasaur next turn and I smack you in the face. It's the Knife Juggler and the Righteous Protector are by far the most important. And I think that in this meta, a lot of times you want to be able to rebuild and snowball fast again. I don't feel like Aggro Paladin snowballs. I feel like it consistently pushes, but doesn't really have a low end of that and doesn't really have a high end. You just equip a weapon, you hit him. You make a 1-1 with the bubble and you hit him. And it doesn't really feel like it gets out of control unless you can't stop their first push. With Murloc Paladin, it's the zoo thing. And the Murloc thing we know from the past. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. The more stuff gets on the board, all the stuff has a lot more synergy as opposed to just raw power. And I like the synergy more in this meta game the more I played.
It's also pretty good in Wild because there's some extra cards you can throw in there.
Which ones? I'm trying to remember.
Well, there's the legendary.
Old Merc guy.
Yeah,
that guy's good.
So. And I think about was it Anyfin?
Yeah, well, that's a very
you
different
can
deck,
throw it
I
in.
think.
It's a different deck, but it's still you can see it with Murloc Paladin. Like it will be one of. I don't know. So that was our quick fire question.
How
so if you like,
long can this go on?
yes. If you want to send in your questions, we have it on our Discord. It's discord.coinconcede.com. We'll give you an invite to it yourself. No need to contact us. Or if you'd like to contact us, you could do it at coinconcede@gmail.com. We have Twitter as coinconcede. And yeah, a couple of our thanks. Thanks to Stefan L for letting us use his cover. His channel is linked on our show notes. I already gave you the website. Coinconcede.com is our website. And let's see, I did everything else here except shop.coinconcede.com. Did I miss anything, guys? No, right? Yeah, I've already mentioned at least some point in this episode. But big thanks to our producers, Reganis Prime, Caleb Sabi, and Fluffy. I don't think he's ready to play it.
I almost thought you were gonna miss it. I was gonna be sad. I love that bumper.
Never! I never miss it.
All right. I'm going to start with my shout out so you guys can prepare for yours. I'm going to shout out to Blue Spartan for being a worthy opponent. It was fun. Let's go with Bodicus.
So I wanted to do a quick shout out, even though I'm not technically part of the UHL, but just it's been really fun watching all the games, and I really appreciate that I got the opportunity to cast the match between Ziggy and Andrew is living over the weekend. I had a ton of fun. You guys should definitely go check out the VOD if you have not yet. Big thanks to Rod Johnson and also to Storm Rage, because those were the two people I casted with this week. One of those was obviously Kenny's match with Blue Spartan, but I really had a lot of fun casting. I'm hoping I get some more opportunities to do so in the future.
All right, yeah, it was nice to have you as casting went back to go watch and see if there was anything I could do to play better. And I learned some things, so thanks for catching my mistake.
Did you learn how good that Evolve can be at the end of that match? Because I don't want to spoil it, but it was one of the most fun games I've ever seen.
It's one thing why I want to do more casting, so I can better accurately call those situations instead of just laughing maniacally for 30 seconds while they're trying to finish the game.
But what else can you do in those very hectic 30 seconds?
Not a whole lot.
Neither could they. Turns out.
I
won't spoil it, but I will say they finished the match just in time. So anyways.
See what you did there.
I got a bunch of shoutouts. UHL is awesome. Andrew is Living is awesome. great games. Well, at least it was great to play against you. And I'm sorry the games were defined by Corridor Creeper. Anyone that's talking about Hearthstone positively and constructively this week, I'm all about the huge Twitter threads that have been going around, Velen's chosen, etc. Big shout outs to Navalus. He has a new show, What the Deck? Ha, I get it. Go check it out. He had his first episode on Monday. He's doing a giveaway. Big props to Spartacus Fett. He's the Twitter UHL hype man. And big shout out to the primetime players. You have been very patient with us, and you are also a bunch of killer players. Smiley Chris, Blue Spartan, Briganus Prime. Your skills are quite... Wait for it. Where's this button?
Whoa, legendary!
Legendary. Very impressed by the play. Y'all beat us. Very good. Nice job. Next Listener League, I'm betting on you if we're allowed to bet, which I'm not sure we are.
I don't think we are.
I don't think we are.
It's well,
Alrighty.
yeah, we'll keep it under the table, or maybe we won't bet
Why
at
don't
all.
Why don't you continue with your information? Where can people find you?
You can find me on twitch.tv/ridiculoushat. I stream Thursdays and Saturdays, except when I don't. I'm really bad at keeping my schedule lately, real bad at it. But I do intend to stream Thursday, and I intend to just play the new Tavern Brawl. So if that sounds appealing to you, I will jam as many rogue games as I can. If I get a face hunter here or there, we'll be okay. You can find me on Twitter @ridiculoushat, where I tweet a decent amount, and you can find me on any Hearthstone Discord. Just at me, and I will get back to you.
All right, I'll do this as if I was talking with Had. So where can people find Cora? She's casting Hearthstone. You can find her on Twitter at songbird_hs and on Twitch at songbird_cora. Bodicus, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at BodicusHS. And it'd be great if you could follow me on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Bodicus. I probably won't get to stream this weekend because I'll be in San Diego, so I'm actually think I might try to fire up the stream after the episode today because I want to get some streaming in before next week.
All right. Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at KCCO_gamer. Contact me on Discord, Twitter. That's the main places I'm at. And I'm going to leave you with Keep Calm and Chive On. If you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory.
You win. I can rest now. You win. For now. Now, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.
I choose death.
You have triumphed. This time.
This hunt is yours.